This is a true story adaptation. In Guangdong province, a shocking case occurred when a 46-year-old man was found dead in his own home. Even more frightening, the culprit was the victim's biological mother, an 83-year-old elderly woman. At the trial, the mother openly admitted to her crime, but what surprised everyone even more was her declaration that she had no regrets for what she had done. So what could drive a mother to cruelly kill her own child? And why did people forgive her for her actions? Let's explore the details of this case in today's video. On May 9th, the police in Guangdong received a startling phone call from an 83-year-old woman named Huang. In the call, Ms. Huang confessed that she was the one who had killed her biological son, Mr. Lei, 46 years old. This revelation shocked not only the police but everyone around her, making it hard to believe. Mr. Lei was a healthy middle-aged man, while Ms. Huang was frail with old age, seemingly not strong enough to harm a grown man like that. However, the unexpected twist was that Ms. Huang had meticulously planned this act beforehand. According to her testimony, Ms. Huang had been planning to kill her son for a long time. Over an extended period before the crime, she repeatedly visited the local hospital. Not only did she go for regular checkups, but she also used each visit to request additional sleeping pills from the doctor. After bringing the pills home, she carefully hid them in a calcium pill bottle to avoid Mr. Lei discovering them. Over time, Ms. Huang secretly stockpiled more than 70 sleeping pills, preparing for her plan to kill her son. She had carefully and thoroughly planned, waiting for the right moment to carry out this cruel act. On the fateful day of the murder, Mistress Huang stealthily set her well-prepared plan in motion. She took out the sleeping pills she had been hoarding, a total of 76 pills, and began crushing them one by one. She then mixed them into her son's bowl of rice, adding a bit of honey and water to create a mixture, which she personally fed to him. Not long after eating, Mr. Lei began to fall into a deep sleep due to the strong effect of the sleeping pills. This was the moment when Ms. Huang decided to proceed with the next step of her brutal plan. She found an old cotton pillow, gently placed it over Mr. Lei's face, and with her trembling elderly hands, slowly pressed it down, trying to suffocate him. This action appeared calm, but in reality, it was filled with the pain and inner turmoil of a mother taking the life of the child she had raised. But something unexpected happened. Although he had fallen into a deep sleep, Mr. Lei suddenly struggled, reacting to the suffocation. The strength of an adult man far surpassed that of an 83-year-old woman like Ms. Huang, preventing her from continuing with her intent. In panic, Ms. Huang quickly grabbed a silk scarf from the house and tightly wrapped it around Mr. Lei's neck. To be certain, she also covered his nose and mouth with her hands. This time, after a few weak struggles, Mr. Lei lost all resistance and gradually stopped breathing completely. In fact, Ms. Huang was fully aware that she had committed a horrific crime. Right after finishing her cruel act, she didn't run or try to hide her guilt. Instead, she calmly picked up the phone and called 110, the police emergency hotline, to turn herself in. In that call, she calmly confessed to killing her son, an act that seemed unbelievable to anyone. When the police arrived at the scene, they found Mr. Lei lying motionless on the bed. Although they tried to check, there were no signs of life left in him. The medical staff quickly concluded that Mr. Lee had passed away. Later, forensic experts conducted an examination and determined the cause of Mr. Lee's death to be mechanical asphyxiation due to external force, specifically the silk scarf Miss Huang had used to strangle her son. In the interrogation room, Miss Huang did not evade or deny her guilt. She openly recounted every step of how she had killed her own son. Her detailed confession left the investigators in shock. Given the gravity of the case, the investigators quickly transferred the case file to the UXU District Prosecutor's Office for legal proceedings. 2 months later, the investigation was completed, and Miss Huang was officially charged with premeditated murder. The case was immediately brought to trial before the law. Due to the complex and shocking nature of the case, the USU District Prosecutor's Office and the court decided to closely coordinate to ensure all trial procedures were handled carefully and fairly. At the trial, Ms. Huang appeared exhausted, her eyes filled with remorse. When it was her turn to speak, she broke down in tears, with tears streaming down her aged face, and her voice choked. "I loved him so much. Every day I think of him, my heart feels like it's being squeezed. I never wanted to be apart from him." Her words left everyone in the courtroom in silence, sympathizing with the pain of a mother. However, everyone wondered, if she truly loved her son that much, why did she kill him? The judge, while listening to her testimony, immediately posed a firm but curious question. If you truly loved your son, as much as you say, why did you end his life with your own hands? Did you believe this was the best solution for both of you? At that question, Ms. Huang was silent for a few seconds, as if reflecting on everything that had happened. After a while, she sighed deeply, her face growing more somber, and then said in helplessness and despair, "Bringing him into such a miserable life was my fault. I always felt I owed him too much. I didn't want him to suffer anymore." According to Ms. Huang's account, Mr. Lee was born prematurely, and right after birth, doctors noticed abnormalities in his brain development. After many tests and diagnoses, Ms. Huang's family was eventually informed that Mr. Lee had Down syndrome, a congenital condition that severely affects intellectual development. But that wasn't all. Mr. Lee also suffered from rickets, which stunted his physical development. While other children, by the age of 1, could crawl, stand, and begin learning to walk, Mr. Lee still couldn't even lift his head. His frail body forced the boy to face many difficulties. While his peers were attending school, learning to read and write, young Le was still struggling with his first steps at the age of 10. These two illnesses made it impossible for Mr. Lee to live a normal life like others. His intellectual and physical development was severely stunted and hindered by his conditions. But through all those difficult years, Mr. Lee always had a devoted mother by his side. Despite facing countless hardships, Ms. Huang cared for him with boundless love. She was not just a mother, but also a protector and companion, always watching over and supporting Mr. Lee through each slow step in his life. To treat her youngest son's illness, Ms. Huang spared no effort, dedicating her time and energy to seeking new treatment methods. She took him everywhere, from large hospitals to small clinics in Guangdong, hoping to find an effective way to cure her son. However, despite all her efforts, the results were not what she had hoped for. Her son, Mr. Le's health showed little improvement, which left her heartbroken and disappointed. Particularly, her son had suffered from rickets since childhood, and Miss Huang was persistent in finding ways to supplement calcium to improve his health. She didn't mind spending time and effort, persistently preparing dishes made from fish bones, such as soups and porridge, hoping that the calcium from these meals would help her son become healthier. For a long period, she regularly cooked these nutritious dishes, but unfortunately, her son's condition showed no signs of improvement. Although her efforts didn't bring significant results, she never gave up. She continued to care for her son with all the love and dedication of a mother, hoping that somehow he would get better. However, taking care of Mr. Li was no easy task. Due to his frail health, he was unable to handle even his basic personal needs, including hygiene. To earn money for their living and pay for medical expenses, Miss Mquedistrat Huang had to seek help from caregivers. Whenever she had to leave for work, these caregivers would take over in caring for Mr. Lei. However, due to the overwhelming and exhausting nature of the job, many caregivers found it burdensome and didn't want to continue. They had to tend to all of Mr. Li's daily needs, which required patience and special care. Furthermore, Miss Huang couldn't afford to pay high wages for the caregivers, making it difficult to find and retain long-term help. Many people quit after a short period, leaving Miss Huang in a situation where she had to manage almost everything on her own. Mr. Li's health and the financial burdens created enormous pressure on Miss Huang's shoulders. As a frail elderly mother, she not only had to worry about her son, but also carry the heavy responsibilities of maintaining their livelihood. The financial difficulties, along with the long-term care of her son, left Miss Huang physically and mentally exhausted. Even when Mr. Li turned 30, his health began to deteriorate rapidly. In particular, the degeneration of his brain became more pronounced each year. His brain gradually lost its ability to function normally, and in recent years the decline had accelerated, causing Miss Huang, who had always cared for him, to grow even more worried and weary. The worsening signs of her son's health became increasingly severe, leaving her filled with sorrow and pain. Not only was his brain affected, but the muscles around Mr. Li's hips also began to atrophy. This made him unable to sit up on his own, and eventually he was bedridden for a long period. Due to being confined to bed for so long, Mr. Lei developed serious bed sores. These sores not only caused pain but also severe itching, adding to his suffering every hour and minute. By this time, Miss Huang had entered old age, and her own health was declining. She not only had to deal with physical exhaustion due to aging, but she was also diagnosed with high blood pressure and heart problems. Yet every time she heard her son's painful groans from the next room, her heart wrenched in pain, no less than her son's suffering. She felt as if she were experiencing every pain that Mr. Lei endured, but she couldn't do anything to ease her son's agony. As her health deteriorated, the caregiving tasks that she once could handle easily became too much for her. Frequent pain and exhaustion left her unable to care for Mr. Lei as she used to. Nevertheless, whenever she felt even a little better, Miss Huang didn't hesitate to try and take care of her youngest son, despite her own declining health. She didn't want to see her son suffer in pain alone, and that pushed her to continue exerting herself, even though each time was a struggle beyond her own limits. But one day, when Mr. Lay's condition worsened, he was in so much pain that he couldn't even swallow food. Although Miss Huang tried to spoon-feed him, he was unable to eat. Faced with this, she helplessly put down the bowl of rice, sighing in heartbreak, "Son, if even eating has become this hard, what's the point of living?" Her tearful words reflected the deep despair and profound pain of witnessing her son endure unrelenting suffering. During that time, Miss Huang was constantly worried about her youngest son's future. She wondered who would care for Mr. Lay after she passed away. She knew her son's condition required special care, but given their financial and health circumstances, she couldn't afford long-term help. The thought of her son having no one to care for him after her death increased her stress and anxiety, and this may have been one of the reasons behind her later actions. "Only by ending his life can I finally rest in peace." When people heard these words in court, some expressed sympathy, but many others saw Miss Huang's actions as selfish. They argued that there were still places in society like social welfare centers or nursing homes. Why hadn't she sought help from those places instead of choosing to end her son's life? In fact, community workers had once come to her home to offer assistance and had advised her to place her son in a social welfare center. At first, Miss Huang thought it was a reasonable solution, so she personally went to the facility to assess the situation. However, upon arriving, she realized the conditions there were not as good as she had hoped. Staff only checked in every 3 hours, and if her son were admitted there, he would have to wear diapers 24 hours a day, lying bedridden like a vegetable, with no other activities. And although she knew very well that she had broken the law, in front of the judge, she firmly stated, "I have no regrets. I'd rather commit a crime." As she uttered these words, her voice choked up and tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. At the age of 83, she understood that she didn't have much time left. Her health was failing, and death was likely near. Instead of leaving her son to live in pain and helplessness, she chose to let him go with the little dignity he had left. The case seemed cruel, but hidden within it was the immense love of a mother. That love moved not only the police, judges, and everyone present at the trial, but also caused many to shed tears at this painful sacrifice. At this point, the judge asked again, "Doesn't your family have anyone else who could care for him?" Miss Huang had an older son who was completely healthy, both physically and mentally, and financially capable. Even after she passed away, legally, the older brother would be responsible for caring for his sibling. But Miss Huang firmly replied, "No, I cannot leave such a heavy burden on my eldest son. It would ruin his entire life." For the past 46 years, as a mother, Miss Huang had endured countless hardships to care for her youngest son. The physical exhaustion may not have been the hardest part, but the mental pressure over all those years was something no one could fully understand. Over the years, Miss Huang had exhausted herself, physically and mentally drained, enduring pain and pressures that few could imagine. She didn't want to pass this burden on to her eldest son. To her, she had brought her youngest son into this world, so she believed it was her duty to bear all the responsibility. Miss Huang's extreme action was something no one had anticipated. To help lessen his mother's punishment, her eldest son testified in court. He expressed to the judge that his mother acted out of desperation, not malice. Her intention was only to free her younger son, but unfortunately, she chose the wrong way. Ms. Huang's daughter-in-law also submitted a letter of clemency to the court, pleading on behalf of the family for leniency. Legally, no matter the reason, Ms. Huang had committed murder and would surely face punishment. However, the family's expressed forgiveness was acknowledged by the prosecution. Additionally, the prosecutor considered the fact that Ms. Huang had voluntarily turned herself in and truthfully confessed to her crime, recommending a reduced sentence. While Ms. Huang's actions violated the law and could not be excused, they were somewhat understandable on an emotional level. This case differed from typical violent crimes. Ms. Huang did not kill out of hatred, but out of love, blind but deep love that led her to make the wrong choice. Moreover, Ms. Huang's use of sleeping pills to end her son's life also somewhat lessened the pain he had to endure. On the afternoon of October 26, the presiding judge publicly announced the verdict. The defendant Huang was guilty of intentional murder and sentenced to 3 years in prison, with a 4-year suspended sentence. When the sentence was announced, Ms. Huang was overwhelmed with tears. She had never expected such a light sentence, knowing full well that, regardless of the reason, murder was still a crime, and she had indeed committed it. More than 5 months had passed since the death of Ms. Huang's son, but throughout that time, she hadn't had a single peaceful night's sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, the image of her youngest son would appear vividly in her mind, as if the event had just happened. The memory and guilt over her son's death constantly haunted her, making it impossible for her to escape the feeling of remorse and pain. In her twilight years with not much time left, Ms. Huang made the decision to end her disabled son's life because she could no longer care for him. That decision stemmed not only from her despair, but also from the boundless love of a mother for her child. During the long, sleepless nights, Ms. Huang endlessly pondered over that decision. It was a terrible emotional burden, but for her, it was the only choice left to save her son from a life she believed would be more painful than death. Next, please follow the case. Female flight attendant murdered, body hidden in closet for 4 days. When the flight attendant's sister opened the wardrobe to check, firefighters discovered the victim's decomposing body in a kneeling position. The strange thing is that the family members living with the girl did not smell any foul odor for the past 4 days. The murder case of the flight attendant in the wardrobe shocked Hong Kong for a long time with its intricate details. The mysterious death of the beautiful flight attendant sparked many rumors. From there, her true life was exposed, helping the police track down the perpetrator. Although they identified the suspect's identity, it took 3 years for the police to arrest him. Let's explore the truth behind Hong Kong's most horrific murder case, with the mysterious details still behind. This is a true story adaptation. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive notifications whenever there is a new video. The setting of this story takes place in Hong Kong, China. On December 4th, 2013, in a private apartment in Tsuen Wan Garden, Hong Kong, Chen Manyi, a young and beautiful woman, was meticulously organizing her luggage in preparation for an upcoming business trip. In the quiet atmosphere of the room, the doorbell suddenly rang loudly, shattering the peace of the space. At first, she thought it was a family member returning home, so without any caution, she hurriedly went to the door, with a slight annoyance in her heart. "Why didn't you bring the key this time?" Chen Mani opened the door while frowning slightly, not immediately noticing anything unusual. However, as soon as the door opened, the image of the person standing before her stunned Chen Mani. Her eyes immediately changed, pupils dilated, and her face showed fear. The person standing at the door was not the family member she expected, but an uninvited guest. Although she did not want to, she had to reluctantly invite the stranger into her home. The atmosphere in the room became tense and suffocating. The two faced each other, not exchanging many words, but the tension between them seemed to slice through the air. After only a short time, the guest left the apartment, carrying coldness and mystery with him. Chen Mani also disappeared mysteriously thereafter. Her family had no doubts, still believing that she had gone to work at the airline as planned, so no one was worried. 4 days later, on December 8th, Chen Mani's younger sister, Chen Manzhen, went to the apartment to check the room and discovered the most horrifying thing in her life. While opening the wardrobe, she was shocked to find Chen Mani's corpse lying inside, already beginning to decompose. Why was Chen Mani murdered? Who was the guest whose face changed the last time he met the beautiful flight attendant? Chen Mani was born into a humble family in Hong Kong, where her family had only a small, cramped apartment and not much living condition. She was the eldest daughter among 3 sisters, bearing the responsibility of caring for and protecting her younger siblings since they were very young. Chen Mani's parents were ordinary workers, doing manual labor jobs with low wages, just enough to cover their daily lives. After many years of diligently saving every small wage, they finally had enough money to buy a small house in Sunwan Garden, a densely populated residential area. This was an important milestone for their family, as it was the first time they had a stable place to live and no longer had to worry about renting or moving. The house, though not very spacious, was the result of many years of hard work, a pride that the parents always wanted to bestow upon their children. As the eldest daughter in the family, Chen Mani had been aware of her responsibilities since childhood. She always strives to fulfill her role as the eldest sister, not only helping her parents with household chores, but also taking care of her 2 younger sisters when their parents have to work all day. Despite the many difficulties in life, Chen Mani never complains. On the contrary, she is always diligent, patient, and eager to learn. Neighbors often praise Chen Mani as a well-behaved, polite girl who always knows how to conduct herself properly. Determined not to disappoint her parents, since she was still in school, Chen Mani set a goal for herself to enter a prestigious university. Years of diligent study, along with relentless effort, helped her achieve remarkable academic accomplishments. Possessing a tall, beautiful appearance with a graceful face and a charming smile, she always attracts others' attention. Many people even advised her to pursue a career as a flight attendant, a job considered prestigious and high-paying in Hong Kong. They believed that with her outstanding looks and excellent communication skills, Chen Mani would have a bright future in this industry. In response to everyone's praise, Chen Mani did not become arrogant. Instead, she worked even harder. Hong Kong is a place where every inch of land is precious, where everyone must race to survive. Chen Mani understands this better than anyone. She tells herself to work even harder, striving each day to build a bright future for herself and her family. After graduating high school with excellent grades, she passed the difficult entrance exams and was officially admitted to the University of Hong Kong. This was the first step for her to nurture her grand dream of becoming a flight attendant, a job not only highly regarded, but also greatly admired in Hong Kong. At that time, being a flight attendant was a dream for many, not only because of the attractive salaries, but also due to the prestige and the opportunity to travel around the world. Compared to other workers who have to spend many years to get a raise, flight attendants seem to have a stable income. With her pleasing appearance and confident demeanor, Chen Manyi was officially hired by Cathay Dragon, one of Hong Kong's leading airlines. In her work, Chen Manyi always appeared professional and friendly to everyone. She was loved by her colleagues for her approachable personality and high responsibility. Chen Manyi always adhered to all regulations, performed her duties well on flights, and almost never received complaints from passengers. Upon receiving her first salary, the joy within Chen Manyi overflowed. She did not hesitate to organize a lavish party to treat her family. More than half of her salary was sent to her parents to help them make ends meet, showing her filial piety. Chen Manyi is a girl who deeply loves her family. She lives harmoniously and maintains very good relationships with everyone in the household. No one could have imagined that a vibrant girl, at the peak of her youth, could become a victim of a mysterious murder. The first person to discover the body on December 8th was her younger sister, Chen Manjin. Overwhelmed with fear, Chen Manjin immediately called the police. After the police arrived at the scene, they immediately conducted a thorough autopsy of Chen Manyi. On the victim's body, there were no obvious wounds, nor any signs of a violent altercation or fierce resistance. However, the only distinct trace easily noticeable was a deep mark on the neck, indicating that the victim had been strangled. The time of death of Chen Manyi was determined by forensic experts to be December 4th, meaning she had died approximately 4 days before her body was discovered. The victim's family also provided important information, stating that on that day, no one was at home except Chen Manyi. Her parents and 2 younger sisters had all gone out to work. Chen Manyi had a flight on that day and was preparing her belongings at home when her sister Chen Manjin left the house. This detail was further corroborated when Chen Manyi was found in the flight attendant uniform she had prepared for the flight. When investigating the scene, the police noted that there were no signs of struggle between the victim and the perpetrator. The doors and windows of the house showed no signs of being damaged or forced in from the outside. This further clarified that the victim might have voluntarily opened the door for the murderer to enter the house. Additionally, only Chen Manyi's mobile phone and bank card were missing. No other valuable items were taken. This ruled out the possibility of a regular theft, and the police began to suspect that the culprit might be someone Chen Manyi knew. According to the information gathered, on the day of the incident, Chen Manyi likely voluntarily opened the door for the perpetrator. The two may have had an argument or some disagreement, leading the perpetrator to act out in anger. After committing the crime, the perpetrator hid the victim in the wardrobe in the private bedroom. Due to the cold weather in Hong Kong in December, the wardrobe still had ice packs, so Chen Manyi's family did not detect any foul odor. The building where Chen Manyi's family lived was equipped with surveillance cameras. The police quickly contacted the condominium management to retrieve the footage. They meticulously analyzed the footage of people entering and leaving the building at the time of Chen Manyi's murder. To identify and recognize individuals who might know the victim, the police called Chen Manzhen to review and analyze the recorded footage. The footage captured by the surveillance camera was chaotic and difficult to follow, leading the police and Chen Manzhen to spend hours watching without discovering any significant clues. The atmosphere in the surveillance room grew tense, with exhaustion evident on everyone's faces. Just when everyone seemed on the verge of giving up, Chen Manzhen's eyes suddenly lit up. She jumped up and said urgently, "Wait, can you rewind that part? I think I just saw someone familiar." The police immediately refocused, rewinding the clip as requested by Chen Manjin. When the video replayed, Chen Manjin confidently pointed at the screen, her voice growing louder, filled with unwavering certainty. "It's him. It's definitely him. He's the killer." The person Chen Manjin referred to was Mo Jian, the ex-boyfriend of her older sister, Chen Manyi. They had broken up a long time ago, but Mo Junxian's presence at the apartment raised many questions. Chen Manjin's statement opened up a new direction for the investigation, helping the police gradually piece together the events between Mo Junxian and Chen Manyi. Despite being sisters, their lives were completely different. Chen Manyi, with her gentle and intelligent demeanor, was admitted to the Chinese University of Hong Kong and later became a flight attendant. In contrast, Chen Manjin did not pursue higher education and worked at a bar. The younger sister always felt her life wasn't as prestigious as her older sisters, but the bond between them remained strong. As a result, Chen Manyi often went to the bar to pick up her younger sister after her late shifts. It was at this bar that Chen Manyi met Mo Junxian and began dating him. He came from an upper-class family whose parents were wealthy thanks to investments in the transportation industry. However, the wealth and indulgence he received from his family did not lead to Mo Junxian's success in life. Instead, he became a hedonist, disinterested in education, and lacked clear goals in life. Mo Junxian, due to his poor academic performance, was unable to enter university. Relying on his parents' money, he only took low-paying jobs, living a leisurely life and spending money carelessly. Mo Junxian's greatest pleasure was hanging out at bars with his friends. One of the bars Chen Manjin worked at was a place he frequently visited. It was there that he met Chen Manyi, the woman who changed his life and brought their relationship to a tragic end. Chen Manyi possessed an exquisite beauty, with a delicate face and perfect figure, which quickly caught Mo Junxian's attention. Enchanted by her alluring appearance, Mo Junxian began an intense pursuit, determined to win Chen Manyi's heart. At first, under the persistent advances of Mo Junxian, Chen Manyi gradually softened. Mo Junxian's family was not only wealthy but also incredibly generous, which made it hard for many young women to resist someone like him. Chen Manyi was no exception, and she soon fell for Mo Junxian, charmed by his gallant and pampering ways. In the early months of their relationship, Chen Manyi and Mo Junxian experienced a sweet and dreamy time together. Those around couldn't help but envy Chen Manyi, as she seemed to have found a charming prince, a man who was both wealthy and doted on her. Chen Manji herself believed she had met the true love of her life. In her joy, she did not hesitate to introduce Mo Junxian to her family, and the two began discussing the future, even mentioning marriage. However, that sweetness did not last long. Gradually, cracks in the relationship began to surface as Mo Junxian's true nature was revealed. Although he appeared to be a caring and faithful man in front of Chen Manyi, in reality, he was nothing more than a philanderer. Not only did he secretly have affairs with other women, but he also frequently sought out relationships online, even suspecting Chen Manyi of cheating on him. Mo Junxian's unfounded suspicions left Chen Manyi feeling exhausted and stressed. She could no longer tolerate a boyfriend who was both unfaithful and distrustful. After enduring for some time, they finally decided to break up. However, Mo Junxian skillfully convinced her with sweet words to get back together. Their relationship resumed, but didn't last long. As a horrific event occurred, Mo Junxian began to exhibit violent behavior. Mo Junxian's financial issues were also a major factor that caused their relationship to deteriorate. Due to his lazy nature and unwillingness to strive, Mo Junxian's parents decided to tighten financial control in order to force him to become more responsible. Mo Junxian, who who was accustomed to a luxurious life, suddenly found himself in a situation where he no longer had money to spend. Instead of working hard to improve his life, his first thought was to borrow money from his girlfriend, Chen Manyi. Although Chen Manyi had a stable job with a decent income, most of the money she earned had to be used to support her family. Therefore, when Mo Junxian asked to borrow money, she could only help him a few times. However, as the borrowing became more frequent, Chen Manyi started to doubt Mo Junxian's true intentions with the money. When she could no longer meet Mo Junxian's financial demands, she had to face his wrath. During a heated argument, Mo Junxian lost control and attempted to strangle Chen Manyi with the intent to kill her. Terrified, Chen Manyi struggled free from Mo Junxian's violent grip and escaped. From that moment on, Chen Manyi woke up to the reality. She saw through Mo Junxian's true nature and realized that this relationship could no longer continue. With determination, she cut off all contact and ended her relationship with Mo Junxian, never looking back. No one could have predicted that just 3 months later, Chen Manyi would be murdered by Mo Junxian himself. Although the identity of Mo Junxian's killer has yet to be determined by the police, to Chen Manjin, she was certain he was the culprit. Tears streaming down her face, Chen Manjin sobbed. "It's all my fault. If I hadn't worked at that bar, my sister would have never met Mo Junxian. I ruined her life." This led the police to believe that Mo Junxian had fled after committing the crime. Although Hong Kong police conducted extensive searches, Mo Junxian seemed to have vanished into thin air. In an effort to swiftly catch the murderer, the Hong Kong police offered a reward of 300,000 Hong Kong dollars for any information leading to his capture. However, despite the large reward, all leads came to a dead end. Mo Junxian remained elusive. As time passed, the case gradually faded from memory, until 3 years later, in October 2016, an unexpected call from an elderly man in Shenzhen brought the case to light. In a trembling voice, the old man revealed that his son-in-law was none other than Mo Junxian, the man who had been on the run for 3 years after committing murder. He provided full information on Mo Junxian's whereabouts. On October 29th, Shenzhen police surrounded a hair salon where Mo Junxian's wife was working. When a familiar figure appeared, the police immediately ordered action. Mo Junxian, completely caught off guard, was thrown to the ground. When he turned and saw the police uniforms, his face instantly showed signs of despair and defeat. On February 1st, 2017, Mo Junxian was extradited to Hong Kong. There, after hours of intense interrogation, he finally confessed to all of his crimes. On December 4th, 2013, Mo Junxian decided to try to rekindle his relationship with Chen Manyi. In reality, at that time, Chen Manyi had already moved on with a new boyfriend and had healed from the emotional scars of her broken relationship with Mo Junxian. She no longer had any feelings for him. However, Mo Junxian was unwilling to give up. His obsession and selfish pride drove him to visit Chen Manyi's family, hoping for one more chance. As Mo Junxian entered the building where Chen Manyi's family lived, he felt a mix of both nervousness and determination rising within him. He believed that somehow he could convince Chen Manyi to return to him once more. When Chen Manyi opened the door, the surprise and discomfort were evident on her face. Before she could say anything, Mo Junxian rushed into the house and slammed the door shut. Her eyes became vigilant, but she still maintained a calm demeanor, hoping to keep her distance from him. When Mo Junxian pleaded for reconciliation, Chen Manyi refused without hesitation. Her decisive rejection was like a knife stabbing into Mo Junxian's pride, making him feel humiliated and unbearable. He grew furious, his anger erupting uncontrollably. The argument between the two intensified fiercely. In a blind rage, Mo Junxian found the silk scarf on Chen Mani's flight attendant uniform and used it to cruelly end her life. As Chen Mani lay motionless on the floor, Mo Junxian stood there, looking at her lifeless body, feeling a terrifying sense of pleasure. From a young age, he had always lived in a well-provided environment, pampered and able to get anything he wanted. This pampering had shaped his selfish and ruthless personality. He couldn't accept that something he desired would fall into someone else's hands. After killing Chen Mani, Mo Junxian felt no remorse. He justified his actions by reasoning that he couldn't allow anyone to have what he couldn't possess. Immediately after committing the crime, he fled to Shenzhen, filled with anxiety and fear. He decided to return to Hong Kong, but ultimately lacked the courage to face the truth, so he continued to hide. For 3 years on the run, Mo Junxian lived under a false name in Shenzhen and built a new life with another woman. They even had a child together. But fate cannot be avoided forever. When he was captured and brought back to Hong Kong, Mo Junxian had to face the court and the law. Mo Junxian was charged with premeditated murder and was eventually sentenced to life imprisonment, a sentence that many agreed was just. Although the perpetrator was punished, the beautiful and blossoming life of Chen Mani could never be restored.